On the 19th of August 1974, a one-hour Creole language program was launched on Radio Caribbean International with a 20-year-old fast-talking Creole announcer who went by the names Peggy, Jamada, and Rapid Rhapsody. It was at a time when Creole speaking was relegated to the working class and those of an abbreviated socio-economic stature. The program was dubbed Radio Ase Sanou, meaning the radio is ours. And for the first time, St. Lucians were able to broadcast their grievances with a special segment called Sakika Affectio, meaning what is affecting you. And thus began the meteoric rise of the presenter. He was the newspaper, television, and social media of the working class. Some listeners swore by him. Others criticized him for his propensity to publish unverified and inaccurate information. For nearly 5 decades, he has ruled the airwaves, and every media survey for the past 25 years has placed his radio program at #1 for listenership. His tongue is devoid of journalistic bones, and his style has been to say it as he sees it. And for 48 years, he has never granted a long-form interview to any journalist until now. Untold Stories presents Sam Juke Bois Flood, Unscripted. Tell me your full name, please.
Sam Flood.
You say your name is Sam Flood, but if you go to some places, they call you Peggy.
Yes.
Some places, Rapid Rhapsody.
Yes.
Some places, Moshi, Jamada.
That was what I used to call myself in 1974.
Jamada.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Jamada, because I was Mapipia, Metio Tut, Mapipi Creole. Okay? And I used to call myself all these names in a minute.
Rapid Rhapsody, Peggy, and Ramada.
This is when I started radio in 1974, Radio Caribbean.
1974, even before you got to Radio Caribbean, tell us about your meter reading days.
You know that I was a meter reader from 1971 till 1972. I also was an insurance agent with American Life Insurance. That time, the agency was George Mallet. Okay? And I move on from there to join the St. Lucia Labour Party in its campaign for Gregor Mason, who is now deceased. And it was from there that I transitioned into radio because I was attracting the political crowd.
You were the person with the mic in Grosley.
Yes.
Thelma Desord with the mic. The people they came to hear Gregor, but it was your antiques that kept the people coming to the show.
Yes.
Tell me who discovered you and how you got into radio.
I got into radio because of Earl Huntley. And when he approached me, I mentioned to him that me in radio, Gasa, go look for another person, because in my opinion, all this time, I thought it was a doll talking in radio.
You thought it was?
Yes, I thought it was a doll speaking in radio. And I told him, this is not for me. He came back a second time and a third time. The third time he came, I told him straight, I will try it out, but I cannot promise you I'll stay in that shit.
At that time, there wasn't Creole radio program.
No.
So, describe the early 1970s and how Creole speakers were looked upon, and why you think that a Creole radio program did not exist or couldn't work.
I got blues for speaking Creole at the St. Augustine Boys School in Vieux-Fort. For speaking Creole. We had class monitors, okay? And during those years, Hunter J. Francois was Minister of Education. And he said, when I challenged him for speaking Creole on air, he said he was never against Creole. All he wanted was speaking proper Creole and proper English.
And in those days, there wasn't the proper Creole.
No.
It was passed on one speaker to the next to the next.
Yes.
It's always the perfect time for parents. Introducing the new and delicious Marigot Bayrum Creams. True St. Lucian flavor. Available island-wide.
Tell me about your training to actually get onto the radio.
I was never trained. One thing for sure, I was taught how to use a console.
Sam, you say you were taught to use the console, but everybody at RCI in the 70s had a problem with you. Why?
Because I was loud. Wadi compati simplicity, papa.
Sam, you were peaking all the time. Sam, more they tell you turn it down. Our part turn it down. True or not?
That is true. Yes, because I was loud. Okay? But since that time, I have become mellow like good wine.
So tell me about your radio program in the early days. It was Radio Asisanu?
Yes.
How did that program come about?
Creole, ikato be pli wed passé en anglais. I chose the name. I chose the theme which I am presently using.
That's Pint to Wine.
Time. Pint to Wine by Joey Lewis. I went on air in August 19th, 1974. The program started 7:30 p.m. until 8:30 night time. At that time, a dance announcement was $5.
That's was that the shout outs or that was announcements?
Announcements. $5. Can you imagine today what is the cost of a dance announcement? $38.75.
$38.75.
Yes. That shows you how things have changed in St. Lucia. Bien bonsoir toute cette lycée, les pays dans cette lycée qui kawi sous signal nous, les cette lycée puis les autres qui kawi là les pays.
Tell us about, give us an example. So you end up in Ancillary on the main street with your little radio. Tell us about that. Because the people used to flock you. Tout le monde y put in eye. Tell us about those days.
Akiyaka, ça a représenté l'année de la femme.
I remember I used to go out with a tape recorder, meeting people randomly and asking them, qui ça qui ka affecté? And people would look out for me in the communities because that was the first time they would ever hear their voices on air. Okay? That program was popular in Martinique, Dominica, and elsewhere in the Caribbean. Okay?
In those early days, what was the normal connecting thread that was affecting people?
Politics.
Some things never change. No. So what was the trouble? What was the political upheaval at that time?
They were fed up with the style of the UWP. And yet still, Flambeau was gaining momentum election after election.
Wider membership makes us better, cause we build a family tree, starting from the roots of the teacher, spreading into community, beyond teacher and family. Service and benefits better, range of services wider, easier to become a member. Flexible load facilities, yes, we beat them all. patronage refund, we beat them all. Make the educated choice instead. St. Lucia Teachers Credit Cooperative Limited.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
Let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. Oh, it's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
Considering you came from a Labour Party background, here you are. How did your background influence your voice on air, considering what was affecting people most at that time?
No, I don't think there was any, what I should say, influences affecting my voice and the other people's opinion politically. I was accepted fair and square. I used to support a government that was doing fairly okay for the country. I don't give a damn which party is in office, as long as you work for the good of country, I am for it.
Your music in the early days. Dominica was just going through a musical revolution. Creole was a big thing and Creole music was coming out of there. So tell me where you got your music from and how you chose it.
I got my music from Dominica. Exile 1 was just created, and I used to play a lot of Exile 1, and a lot of the Dominican bands came about because of the Creole program on Radio Caribbean. There was Liquid Eyes. There was Midnight Groovers. Okay? Liquid Eyes and so forth.
Tell me about local Creole performers or musicians that you broadcast.
Joyce Ogis was the only one with Creole music. I used to go out and record La Rose, La Marguerite, Conte de Bot Solo, and this stuff.
Really? Mm-hmm. You were also instrumental in massive sale of a particular radio.
Which radio is that?
Ake!
Oh!
Ake!
Ake was assembled in VG.
Really?
Yes. At Alan Chasney's building by the Northwest, okay? Ake used to come in red, yellow, and white. And I remember a joke where Simpex was in the boulevard, and a fella went in there and he said, "Temagade radio sala." And he left with it. And a security guard apprehended him. Me Juke Bois di radio assassin. At that time, an AK radio was sold for $35. That was a lot of money then. Okay. He returned the radio and he went to court. Yes. And said to the magistrate, "Samflor di radio assassin kwa mapoyon sesanu iye."
Sam, in those early days, what was some of the stories or story that you covered that still stands out to you today?
Politics. I remember when Mikey
All is not sweetness and light at this time.
took the mist and passed it to one of them in Parliament.
Here, the opposition political party has decided to boycott the independence procedure and stick a pin into the government's balloon.
And the idea was to throw the mist outside of the window for one of the hoodlums to collect and go. That will never be erased from my memoir.
In the 79 to 82 administration of the St. Lucia Labour Party, you were a supporter. What was your take on the transition from John Compton to chaos to more chaos?
George Odlum was the cause of all the political problems in this country because we believed in George. We believed in his doctrine. Okay? I blame George for all the political upheavals that took place in the early 80s.
But for many, George was a savior.
Listen, George Odlum was an influence on all of us. Okay? We would have gone to hell and back for George Odlum. Okay? So, whilst he was a savior to some, but he was an enemy to many of us.
Did you ever clash with George?
No. I remember that on his last days, he sent to call me, and I went to visit him at his house in Marigot. And he told me, don't let up. As I am telling you so, goosebumps. don't let up. Some don't let up. And I remember that until the day I die, I will not let up.
How did you transition from the voice on radio to now developing these ads? What was the business formula then?
Because my voice was in demand. Everything some flood touches used to sell.
Sam, you had a phrase, "Depa mun madu pufan bahai, ukadiyo, but I don't come cheap."
Only in St. Lucia, advertising is cheap.
Do you remember one of the older ones that stand out for you? One of your older ads?
Hoity-toity, proxy, foxy, step in 60. That was a Linmore ad.
There was the other Linmore one, the more famous Linmore one. Tell us about that.
Ti William Debache, Kote Linmore, Yeshwe.
There was the other one, Linmore ni bombwa.
Yes, Valmont. Ni bombwa, bois Valmont pa kakase, et puis bois Valmont pa à l'aise.
Exu pa kwemwe.
Non, mateni anye kon sa.
So why, for years, this has been me? Si ou pa kwemwe, mode bobalmo.
There was listeners who added their own touch to the commercial, but never was I going to say super kwemwe madame mavalmo.
Under what circumstances did you leave? Why did you leave Radio Caribbean?
I was fired because of embezzlement of monies. Like I said, dance announcement was $5 and people used to come straight to me to advertise. That time, a roti was $2 and I used to pocket that money.
That's honest of you.
Yes.
You had a beef with your successor. Your successor was Hilaire Alexander.
No. Yes.
The fellow said you didn't like Hilaire.
No. I never liked anybody who used to come and tell me what it is that I have to do. Hilaire became, because Alontley was going to university, and at the time he wanted somebody to oversee the program. That is when Hilaire came in. Okay?
That was different from Radio Caribbean, where you had free reign, to GIS, which is a more structured environment. What was that like for you, and what exactly did you do there?
I was presenting a Creole program on mornings and afternoons, 6 to 8 p.m. and 5 to 6:30 a.m. Papa Juke Bois dit bien bonsoir pour you et bienvenue pour émission Dis-moi d'où.
How did your style change from RCI to the government?
To be honest, I was producing a 15-minute program called Push You.
Who's that about?
That was government's propaganda.
You, the mouth of the UWP. You.
Yes.
Who told me some? So what was that like for you, now being responsible for John Compton's PR in Creole?
Listen, you needed a salary, okay? Nothing bothered me more than a salary is coming in. Thank God for that.
In your RCI days, you were also the sweet boy. The sweet boy. Upstairs RCI, I was told, the lines were never short and the roof was never empty.
I will not dwell on that part. The roof was never empty. I will not go there.
I would never imagine the day that Sam Flood would be lost for words.
I will not go there.
Hey, stop it.
That's what I'm here for.
For over 138 years, we've had your back. From home contents to medical, auto to business continuity. GTM Insurance. Sound, solid, and reliable.
They say friends are the family you choose. Ours is a diverse, loyal, hardworking, and tight-knit bunch. We're the Monrepo Credit Union, the first community credit union, founded by a rural community and now serving all St. Lucians. Since 1968, we've served low interest rates on loans and higher returns on savings, all while providing sound financial advice. Because our mission is changing lives, one family member at a time. Come join us. We've saved a seat for you. Monrepo Cooperative Credit Union. Our people, our community, our credit union. Telephone 455-3370.
My move to Radio 100, I was renting a bar in Grosley, Scott's Bar, when Linford February came down to Grosley to see me, telling me that he is opening a radio station and he would like me to join him together with Earl Huntley.
You and Earl again?
Yes. Earl was responsible for doing news and editing the program. Now, by editing the program, I used to go on air and tell it like it is. Now, the Conway, that came about via a mistake. I told old Huntley one morning Monsieur Huntley, ani do kon ouwe à présent. And that is how the Conway came about.
That was an assessment of the newscast.
Yes.
He was a journalist presenting, but then you wanted his opinion on what was happening in the news.
Yes.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
I was allowed free rein on my program when Earl left 100. Okay? Then you had Valerie Albert, whom I call the mouth of the South. She always used to be on my case because of political pressure. And I couldn't care less.
Sam, you had a big mouth. Sam used to get them in trouble all the time. Sam, you analyzed the news and said whatever you wanted.
Yes.
But Sam, how
that
could
is
that? But Sam, how could that have been journalism? But Sam, how could that have been journalism?
No, journalism calls for you interpreting the news the way you sees it.
I disagree with you, Sam. Sam.
Therefore, you can agree to disagree.
Okay. When you started Sakika Effecto for radio, what were some of the challenges you had with callers, what they would say, station liability, and in some cases, you fueling them?
No, I never fuel anything. Probably I encouraged it because I cannot tell what a caller is about to say or saying. At the time, I gave callers a free rein.
How did that put you and the station in trouble?
Endless trouble. Endless.
Well, give me two of these incidents.
There was once I interviewed a guy, and that it litigation. And after that, another guy, it litigation. Up till now, this case is still going on. Journal artist, police Saint-Lucie, j'ai sorti et puis un rapport officiel à sous shooting en laborie.
There was also the very dangerous thing that you were involved in. Somebody would call, Sam, tell moun mo. Ou pa have demuro ka koyen. Tell moun mo. You would go on air and say, tell moun mo. And it would turn out that that was not so. I'm just using an example of death. Sam, why?
Because I take it to be my listeners would not call a lie.
You trust 100,000 odd people?
Yes, I do.
You and my ex-girlfriend have something in common. Really? But Sam, some of them put you in problems with HTS.
Yes, that is true. But at the same time, you have to consider that a listener would call and tell you this thing happened. You would take it to mean the truth, whereas it is false.
Linford Favourite famously said, Sam Flood is not a journalist, he's an entertainer. You agree or you disagree?
I disagree with that.
But you did not follow the rules, the tenets of journalism.
I made my own rules.
You did. You did what, son?
I made my own rules. Without a doubt. Because of the statements that I made, meaning that I had to have reason to make my own rules.
What are some of the reasons, Sam?
Like I said, people wouldn't call to tell me a lie. Probably mischievousness. You make the statement and you happened to end up in hot water.
Have you ever had to apologize for anything that you've said on air?
Yes.
How does that make you feel?
That does not make me feel any different from anybody else who has to apologize.
But some of the things that you broadcast or some of the things that your callers said would offend people, would hurt them, would bring them into disrepute. So much so that the apology, mere words, but the actions that created the hurt could never be erased, Sam. But you had quite a few of those.
Listen, I make statements who the cap fits, let it fit them.
Since 1963, our mandate has been to serve people. You know, farming people, fishing people, teaching people, police people, Choiseul people, Soufrière and all their people, no matter where they are. And our people are here, ready to serve with a smile, professionalism and flexibility. If all that makes you think we're your kind of people, then we're ready to help you. Choiseul Cooperative Credit Union. We make lives better. Join us today. Telephone 459-3100 or 459-3119.
Are you steel bending and cutting on your construction site? At Caribbean Metals Limited, we use state-of-the-art technology and machinery to fabricate all the steel you need for your foundation. Starter bars, U-links, stirrups, columns, beams, and any bent bar. Reduce your project time, cost, and material. Let Caribbean Metals bend your steel and increase your savings significantly. Come in, call, email. We will do the rest. Caribbean Metals Limited. We've got you covered. Guaranteed.
We're here for beginnings, endings, and everything in between. For the startups, the slow starts, for the early risers, and the end-of-day finishers. For the career jugglers, high flyers, and for everyone who's ever had a goal or chased a goal. It's why we're here. Here to help you plan, track, and execute your goals so you can own a better tomorrow. Labrie Cooperative Credit Union. One member and one goal at a time. Call us today. Telephone 459-6900. Labrie Cooperative Credit Union. We are not a bank. We are better.
In 1997, you are on Radio 100 and the place is turning red.
Tout moun connaît en Soukouyan, c'est yon bête à di faith.
You have a legion of followers, a voice that you command and listeners who grab at your every word. How did you use that to sway, or did you use that to sway these listeners to your side of the fence, or to the St. Lucia Labour Party side of the fence?
I don't know what is what you talk about, but my job was not for political gain. Okay? People listen when I speak. If I decide that something is wrong with government, I come out and I say so. Because I have never been a card-carrying member of any political party in St. Lucia.
Your take on that transition from 30 years of Compton to the new dispensation?
Like I said, and I will repeat myself, any government of any political party that works in the interest of country and St. Lucians, I will support.
And your take on the early Kenny days?
Kenny did a lot of things. For example, that death trap they call the fallen highway, that cost overrun from Soufrière to Vieux-Fort, the road with Lagan built. Okay? And the death trap were two things that Kenny did I was against. But who am I? It took John Compton 150 years to come back from retirement to oust the Labour Party.
From supporting the Labour Party and the new leader, being a bit of their proponent on radio, to being in disaccord with them, and then openly mocking, teasing, calling names their leader. Sam why? Sam Buderoba? Sam why, Sam?
I have a name for every politician who is a minister of government. I have named all of them.
Even today?
Yes.
Stephenson King.
Big Bear.
Philip Pierre.
Ray Charles.
Aaron Chasney.
Tipwetut.
My guy from Labrie. Alva.
I not name him yet.
You introduced Richard Frederick to Radio 100.
Yes.
How did that marriage start?
This is Stan, Sergeant of Police, who was my partner. I was telling him I needed a lawyer to come and explain the laws of country to the populace. And he told me, Richard Frederick. I had many calls for him to explain the succession of lands, which is a problem in this country.
Do you, when you're reading the news, do you transcribe it first into Creole, or do you just create your own?
I used to translate by writing in Creole. But I am too old a cat to be messed by kittens. I read direct English into Creole.
Do you know that authentic Creole people have a problem with that, Sam?
No.
Yes.
No.
Sam, book-learned Creole people now say some flood the keki. But if you really look at it, Sam has used 12 words when in reality, this sentence translates to that in Creole. But Sam puts his Sam on it. His Sam does not mean that that is the Creole language. You've heard that criticism.
No, not at all.
Challenges in that translation process? Words that you just can't say.
No, there are words in English that you have to use the English word. For example, names. It is English, but you have to use the English pronouncement, even if you give it a Creole slant.
Your take on the current media fraternity, the way news is delivered, the way journalism is done, the investigations and so forth.
A journalist in this country, the youngsters in journalism these days do not adhere to principles. They don't even consult those that have been there before them. So journalism in this country is way down. For example, these young journalists in the media today, they don't know from their elbow down to their toe about journalism.
There will come a point where you may not be able to do radio for forever.
No.
Are you preparing someone else to fill those shoes?
I was never trained. I was only able to be trained how to use a console. People do not teach you to speak Creole. I have no time to teach anybody, for I was never taught.
For 48 years, you've not really given a long-form interview, not like this, to any journalist, not for television.
No.
Why did you agree to this interview?
Because you came up to me, you put in your request, I accepted. Nobody else have ever come to me and asked me for an interview. Case closed. Voila. Thank you very much. Okay.
The fool has never been told. Who'd go on and on? The fool has never been told. Who'd go on and on? The fool has never been told. Who'd go on and on? The fool has never been told. Who'd go on and on? The fool has never been told. Who'd go on and on? The fool has never been